Now this is pretty mind-blowing right here. Golfers are 4% more accurate and 5% longer as a maximum when they tee the golf ball up correctly. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things over a season, your handicap will be massively reduced. Now, we're not just talking tee height with driver today, we're talking the entire bag. So our fairway woods, our hybrids, our long irons, our short irons, and our wedges. So I think this is where you'll be like, ah, I see exactly what you mean. And this is why it's a little bit sort of mind-blown in my opinion. Let's start with driver though. That's a good place to start because this par 4 requires a good tee shot and it's windy. I've come up with S1, Scenario 1, Scenario 2 and Scenario 3. So I have 3 different tee heights. This tee height here, wide open, bombs away. So imagine a par 4 that's no trouble on there or a wide open par 5. I would tee the golf ball up as high as I can. This scenario right here, bunkers everywhere. Scenario 2 for driver, I'd be thinking fairway finder tee height. And finally, this scenario right here, Scenario 3, into wind. This would be my lowest tee height. But I do something different that I've just sort of worked out over the years, that I actually hover my driver head on that one. But I'll show you that. So let's start off with the wide open, bombs away tee height. Now, I'm not going to hit that down here because that does not need to be hit down here. So as much as I want to show you everything, I want to show you a practical solution, how I'm using it out on the golf course. So let's start with the first tee height. Let's get close. So this would be my wide open par 5 or par 4 tee height. I would have roughly 3/4 of the golf ball above the face. Now, if you stay there and I turn to this side, you can see why I think that gives me the longest is because I feel I can hit up the most on that tee height. So that's my first tee height I'm looking at. Wide open fairway, Scenario 1. You just stay there. Let's go fairway finder. Now for me, I tee this a lot lower than most people, and it's a bit of a change. I go to where now 1/4 of the ball is sitting above the face. That's my fairway finder tee height. For me, unfortunately, because we're straight into the wind, we don't want that one today either. We need the into wind tee height, which is this one. And that tee height would be there, where the top of the ball is in line with the top of the face. Now, I just said I do one extra thing with this tee height, right? I hover a little bit, where I'm probably a couple of mil off the ground with the bottom of my driver. For me, this just feels like I'm going to put a slower swing into it. I feel I can keep the loft down off the driver a little bit more, and it really gives me a chance of that lower launch, lower apex, and lower overall flight. I actually think it'll be good to show you some numbers, so let's grab this. So, for example, let's go back to the first tee height. I would hit up on that one the most. That would have the highest launch and the highest overall apex. I'd also hit it harder. The second one would have less of an upwards hit to it, but slight upwards hit, and a little bit of a lower launch compared to Scenario 1, my bombs away tee height. And finally, I probably won't even hit up on this one at all, or very, very little, but this will give me a really low flight. I mean, look at the wind today. This is a tough shot. This is really going to test me. Right, okay, so I'm thinking the line here is that single tree on its own. This is then driver tee height covered off for you, and that's the concept that's going to keep the ball in play and start to get you to lower your scores. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Whoa, look at that flight. Even look at the Tommy Fleetwood finish. Do you know what? I enjoyed that drive way more than hitting that like bombs away big one. Now let's have a look at these numbers. This is a really low flight. So look at this, 99 clubhead speed, I took some speed off it, 8.3 launch, slightly lower ball speed, and what total distance have we got? 234. Apex 54, lower. These are all the facts and the figures we've got at our hands when we're looking at that lower ball flight. But the main thing is that's in play. Next hole is a tough one. We're talking irons. And then don't forget, we are going to cover fairway woods and hybrids, but we need a hole for that. Oh my, I didn't realise there was this much water down here. That is crazy. I am absolutely over the moon with that drive. Look at that water. Look at that water. In fact, actually, we filmed a driver tip on that other hole. That's 17 of the Millennium. Yeah. Look at our ball just down here. That water, yeah. I mean, it's one of them. Sometimes, you know, like when you're playing, ignorance is sometimes bliss in the sense of if you don't know the trouble's there, you don't go into it. Okay, next up, part 3. Oh, that was close. Do you know what? Lovely drive. We're going to play it from here today, 150 meters. This is the hole. So we'll go and talk through tee heights. Now, we don't have to remember them all, but I would just sort of put them into categories. Now, remember what I said. You could be more accurate, you can be longer, and that's just because it's easier to fit the ball out the middle. Just think about it, when you first start playing golf, right, and it's my pet hate, right, when I teach somebody and we go and do an on-course lesson, we get to a par 3 like this, and they go, yeah, I don't tee it up. I'm like, why? Why don't you tee it up? It's making it so much easier. So, I just use, I mean, you could use little, what do you call it? Those little castles, but I use little tee pegs, and I'll show you the difference with your short, medium, and long irons. 160, double check it. 161 flag, winds into out the right. Now that will adjust my club selection, but let's start with showing you this tee height. So I think this is where you'll be like, ah, I see exactly what you mean, and this is why it's a little bit sort of mind-blown in my opinion here. Right, okay, so see how that tee is just sat above the ground? That's how I'm teeing up pitching wedge. So I'm teeing it up lower with pitching wedge, just so it sits above the ground. And I would also include all my wedges within this. So I carry 58, 54 and 50. Now from 9 to 6 iron, I would tee up a little bit higher. So you can see there's probably a 2 mil of where the tee is sat now proud of the ground. And simply, all I want you to think about is, it allows you to align the centre of the club up easier with the ball, and it just looks, and that mental aspect of that is that the golf ball is sitting proud. And it just looks a little bit more inviting. And I think we all forget the mental aspect of golf. And then finally, with my 5 and 4 iron, if you carry that, can you see how I'm sort of a fingertip above the ground? Now, with all these shots, I'm still hitting down on it. All I'm doing is giving myself a little bit more of an inviting lie, a little bit more of an incentive to find the middle and take that club and take confidence, especially on a hole like this. 161. I'm thinking 6 irons. That's that second scenario on those tee heights. A little punchy one. So I need to lower that because that's my 5 and 4. A little bit lower. So really, 3 tee heights with drivers we've learned. 3 tee heights now with irons for pitching wedge for wedges, scoring irons and long irons. Easy as that. Whew. This is a tough shot, this. Bunker left, water right, into the wind. Thought that ball there was going to be hung out to dry over that bunker, and it just started coming back. We found the right portion, but it comes back to this whole thing of just having a little more confidence, looking down at what you're hitting. If I just teed it up there, on that sort of sandy lie, I'd have been thinking fat, thin chunk. Just think, a little tee peg just makes it so much easier. Please forgive my terrible drawing, but just to remind you, right, that's roughly what I'm saying. The lowest tee height for your wedges, slightly higher, and only slightly, but it just makes such a difference at scary. Scoring irons, long irons. We're still trying to hit down on every single one of these clubs, but it just gives you a much better chance of getting that ball away clean. And like, especially on a par 3 like that, if I just chunked it a little bit, I was staring those bunkers in the face. Right, this hole here requires a layup. We've got bunkers, we've got waters again. I'm going to be taking my 3-wood and my hybrid to this tee. Now that bunker you just saw on the course map is 220 away. Now I appreciate for some of us that might still be drivers, so you already know those tee heights, but let's play a scenario where there is a hole where we've got to be a little bit smarter. We've got to be a little bit more hybrid or fairway wood based. So I'm going to go hybrid here, but I would use the same tee height for hybrid and my fairway woods. I'll reiterate that. So what I'm looking for is roughly a fingertip of this area here sat proud of the ground. And this will probably be a lot higher than a lot of us would think. But think why, right? Most of us sort of scoop. So if we scoop, we're always going to find, with sort of 0 degrees of shaft lean, most of us, if we tee it too low, this bottom section of the golf club. I found a lot of the time, just gives me a bit of a safety net, where I tee it that little mil higher, I'll line that up easier. Anyway, enough of me talking, let me show you this and then show you the shot. So that's what I'm talking about. Give it a little waggle, that's a little toe tip that. Give it a little waggle, it shouldn't snap as much, or shouldn't snap at all. Right, that's how high I would have it. It's probably just a little bit higher than those long irons. So sort of a gradual sort of system and concept that I would use. So it's not just I have one for my irons, I have one for my fairway woods, I have one for my driver. There's options within each to make you more accurate, make you a better golfer, play the scenario better. Whoa, we won't say no to that one. That is absolutely perfect. Ideal. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is the Simple Golf Tip Home.